Welcome to Write to Publish, your go-to podcast for all things writing and publishing. I'm Karen Stanley, a 14 times published author and the founder of Mabel and Stanley Publishing. Join me as I share a multitude of tips and insights drawn from my own writing and publishing journey. We'll be hearing from some inspirational authors too, who will share their writing experiences and top tips for success. Each week, we'll learn about an aspect of writing, from composition to genre and from publishing to marketing. Listen in as we learn and chat about all things writing and publishing, and let's get you on the right path.
Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to Write to Publish. I'm Karen Stanley, and today we're going to be tackling one of the biggest myths in the writing world. And that is the idea that to be a real published author, you need a literary agent and consequently a traditional publishing deal. Now, I understand where this belief comes from, and for a very long time, for most of the 20th century actually, a literary agent was essentially the gatekeeper to the publishing industry, and you couldn't get near a traditional publisher without one. But the publishing world has changed dramatically. And if you're still operating on the assumption that an agent is the only legitimate route into publication, you might actually be keeping yourself stuck. So let's have a look at where this myth actually comes from and why there are quite a few purists out there who still believe it's the only way. So the traditional publishing route goes something like this. You write your book, you write a query letter, you send it to literary agents, you wait and wait and wait some more, and then hopefully one of them will sign you. Then they submit your book to publishers. Then a publisher offers you a deal. Then your book comes out roughly 2 years later, if at all. J.K. Rowling had 60 rejections. So that just gives you some context. So for some authors, that is absolutely the right path. I'm not here to say that traditional publishing is bad. It definitely has its place. But what I'm here to say is, and what nobody really tells you when you're starting out, is that the acceptance rate for query letters is somewhere around 1 to 3%. And if you imagine, literary agents receive hundreds, sometimes thousands of submissions a month. And the competition is extraordinary. So even if you land an agent, there's no guarantee your book is going to sell to a publisher either. It can sit on submission for months, years. Some books never sell. And then your book is lost in the ether for 2 years and you still can't do anything about it. It's not really a judgment on the quality of your writing. It's just the reality of a really, really competitive and, let's face it, subjective industry. What one person enjoys in a book will be completely different to what another. And that is no different for readers, editors, literary agents. So self-publishing and hybrid publishing have completely changed the landscape. Self-publishing, where you literally do everything yourself, and again, I'm not advocating for any one of these routes, you must choose what works for you, particularly through Amazon KDP. It means that you can publish your book professionally, reach readers worldwide, and you retain 100% of your royalties. You do have to pay for printing. Some people get a bit sniffy about that, but obviously there are costs involved. But there's no agent, there's no publisher, no 2-year wait. And a hybrid publishing is essentially assisted self-publishing, which is what I do at Mabel and Stanley. We kind of sit in the middle. We bridge that gap between traditional and self-publishing. Particularly if you're a newbie, this is very helpful. You get professional support with editing, cover design, formatting, marketing strategy. But importantly, you retain your rights, you retain your royalties, and you are in control of your book. Now, these aren't consolation prizes for people who couldn't get an agent. They're legitimate strategic choices made by fairly savvy authors who want ownership, who want speed, and who want creative control. Some of the most successful books I've worked on in recent years have been self-published or hybrid published. I've worked with Paralympian athletes. I've worked with, heads of big corporations. These are authors who are out there speaking, consulting, growing their businesses, all on the back of a book they published without ever needing an agent. Some of my fiction authors are doing amazingly well because they've committed to the process. So if it's not an agent, what do you need? You need a good editor. You need someone who's going to tell you the truth about your manuscript. not just stroke your ego and tell you what you want to hear. That's really important. You need a professional cover designer, because people do judge books by their covers every single time. It's not what sells the book ultimately, but it's what makes people stop and pick that book up, either online or physically in a bookshop. You need someone who understands formatting, metadata, categories and keywords, all the technical stuff that makes your book findable on Amazon, and frankly was what I really struggled with when I started my writing journey back in 2011. I didn't have a clue. You need a publishing strategy. Which categories are you going to publish in? How are you going to price your book? What does your launch look like? How does the book connect to your wider author platform? And that is what gets a book published well, not a literary agent. It's getting all of those technicalities right. And as I say to all of my clients, you can do all of that yourself. But if you don't have the technical know-how, there's no shame in paying for those services. Experts hire experts, as they say. Now, some of you might be thinking about credibility. Does traditional publishing carry more prestige, for example? Honestly, yes, in certain contexts. So, for example, academic publishing, literary fiction that's submitted for prizes in certain niche areas, for example, traditional publishing will still carry its weight. But for the vast majority of authors that I work with, business authors, coaches, consultants, fiction writers who want to reach readers quickly, the prestige, in inverted commas there, of traditional publishing is far outweighed by the control and subsequently the income of doing it yourself. It's not that it's an easy journey, but it worked for me. And I was traditionally published twice myself, but I bought my rights back. So the next time someone tells you that you need an agent to be a real author, you have my full permission to smile politely and ignore them completely. It's your book. It should be your rules and consequently your royalties. So keep it for yourself and make it the book that you want it to be, is what I'm saying, really. As always, if you want to talk about what the right publishing path might look like for you, and as I say, it's different for everyone, pop over to mabelandstanleypublishing.com or drop me an email directly at karen@mabelandstanleypublishing.com. And if this episode has given you a bit of a light bulb moment or made you go, actually, I feel a bit better about that, please do like, follow and share. It really does help. And I'll see you in a fortnight. Thanks for listening and bye for now.